Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. If you watched my last two videos, I took you step by step on how to make a maple table with blue resin. Now somebody saw the video and reached out to me and said, can you make me one very similar to that? And I said, sure, why not? So I've been commissioned to make a table, benches, and a coffee table. In this video here today, this is step one. We're going to talk about removing the bark. Did you know that bark is actually called rididome? And there's actually two layers, the outside layer, which is the bark, and the inside layer, which is the cambium. Now, these have to be removed. And why do they have to be removed? Well, it's because if you pour resin and connect it onto here, bark will continue to age. Like right here, this bark is nice and solid. But as time goes by, it'll slowly start to decay and deteriorate, and eventually it'll come off. And you don't want your table then, or any piece you're doing by the way, to have a piece of resin maybe on it, and then the bark breaks off and then your resin is now separated from the table. I've seen this many times. In today's video, we're going to remove this bark, and I'm going to show you how to bring it down right to the wood. So stick around because this build starts right now. Alright, so here we are, and as you can see, I'm actually very lucky because this bark is already loose, so it's going to make my life a little bit easier. And that's what I mean. Eventually the bark will separate. Now I'm very lucky because the cambium came with it. So we got the bark and the cambium right there. So I'm already down to hardwood right here. Now, the one thing to know about removing bark is you need some tools, and these are the tools I use. Is basically a bunch of flathead screwdrivers, a knife, and a hammer. And I'll use whatever I need to get in there to remove this bark. Now, if you're worried about damaging the table, don't be. It's a live edge, and I've done it sometimes where my screwdriver digs right in. Just sand it off. It still looks live edge. No one will know the difference. So take my screwdrivers, see if this one will work. So it's taking off the actual bark. There we go. There we go. And if you notice, the cambium is still a little bit attached right here. So it's about a millimeter or two thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that off, I usually use a knife like this, and I'll just remove it like this. Or depending if it's even this is hard to come off, I'll just get my sander and sand it off. So we got to remove this all.
So in all honesty here, there's no secret. Just get that screwdriver in there or whatever tool you're using and get that bark off. Because if you think it's going to take you an hour to do this, it's going to take you 2 or 3. Trust me on this one.
Alright, so as you can see, the bark and cambium, a lot of it's off. Now what's left here, I'll just leave it for a little while, and I'll take my sander and we'll sand it all off right down to hardwood. Now, the only unfortunate thing is the bark has to be removed everywhere. And if you look closely on the table, there's bark in the middle as well. So join me and I'm going to actually remove that bark as well.
So I honestly thought that removing the bark in the middle was only going to take me an hour or 2. And I have to be honest, it took me 5 hours to get all the bark off and any of the soft wood that was in the middle of the table. So expect it to take a lot longer. But use your screwdriver, your knife, and you'll get it done. So at this point I felt comfortable that I got all the bark off and I was good to go and start sanding. So I just take my 5-inch orbital sander and start sanding the live edge. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. The majority of everything has come off, but you'll see in some areas the wood is kind of stained. You don't really have to take that off. You can leave that on as long as there's no cambium or anything like that still stuck on it.
Alright, so there you have it. Our live edge has been sanded down and there's no more cambium in it. In the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I built my form. Then we're going to take this tabletop, we're going to place it in the form with the sides and silicone it all down and get it ready for its first pour. So like and subscribe so you get notified whenever I put up a new video, and I hope to see you in the next video.